Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you Week 50 with Olexiy Arestovych, former advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, Lieutenant Colonel, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feigin Live. It is Saturday, February the 4th. Time is 10 p.m. in Kiev, 23 in Moscow, or 11 p.m. And we're doing a usual stream with Olexiy Arestovych. Olexiy, glad to see you. Good evening. We called it Week 50. So we're switching now to a weekly format, and we'll dedicate the ending of this stream to that, to these format changes. And right now I do ask those who already are watching us live, please share links in the social, click the like button. Of course, if it's not too bothersome, write where you're from. It's interesting to see where we are being watched. And subscribe to Feigin Live and to Olexiy Arestovych. And to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. It's been a little less than a week. There's a ton of different news that have happened. And look, Mark, see the list? That's quite a bit. And you think we can address that within an hour? I think we can. We'll see. All right, let's try. Which one would you like to pick? For those of our viewers who are not from Ukraine, I would like to share an insight into life here in those 4 days that we haven't seen each other since the previous stream. I was just counting numbers from the media statements. 16 dead civilians, 42 wounded. Kramatorsk, Toretsk and Bakhmut. MLRS systems hit the houses, the stores. Near Marinka, more dead and wounded. In Kherson region, of course, more. Overall, 47 hits by MLRS systems. In Barvinkova, two brothers died in their 40s, and their father in the 70s died, or was wounded. One of the mortar rounds fell into the basement, somehow got into basement and killed 4 people as well on that day. So this is just an insight. It's not all casualties that we suffered. This is just scraped from some of the official media statements. As for the front, evil tongues from the Russian side are saying that in Ugledar, Ukrainian forces are pushing back and conducting counteroffensive operation. A few days ago, about 4 battalion tactical groups and 4 in the reserves were attempting a small tactical offensive. Their task was to surround Ugledar from the right and from the left and try to create a pincer motion, and they failed to complete that maneuver. They suffered serious losses, and now they are saying that Ukrainian forces hit them back and reclaimed earlier captured territories. But there is some information that Russians are moving more troops to the south. We understand why they are doing that, because from Ugledar to see that green tent at 5 o'clock from Ugledar, that's Volnovakha, that's the key railroad junction which provides all the supplies to the southern front of Russia and the occupied territories of Ukraine. It's only 36 kilometers, and HIMARS is one thing, but at 36, field artillery can already reach the vicinity of that station, and that starts to worry them because at best the Crimean bridge had only one line of connection to supply the southern front, and this is the other big one. So, and There is another junction, which is a little further south. It's about 80 kilometers too, but still they can be reached with HIMARS. So they are really concerned with that proximity. And the same thing, they're trying to push away from Tokmak to not allow us to use field artillery. And now the fight is going on there because our reserves also joined. And now we are conducting counteroffensive. They're also moving troops to Tokmak, so we don't know. This is still unfolding. We'll see how it goes. Bakhmut, they're still trying to storm it, and they're trying to encircle it on the right and on the left. We cannot discuss unofficial sources. We'll talk about some of the Russian statements. They're saying that one of the roads is already controlled by Russians. The one that you see on the map. They're controlling part of the roads, and there is still another way around from Bakhmut to Slaviansk, but they're attempting to capture that. And you can see they're also growing a tentacle up north towards Siversk to try to cut our troops, and this is a concerning motion because there is a big protrusion that we occupy, and we have taken and hold. We're showing that on the map, Olexiy. I'm not seeing it. Sorry, let me pull up the stream so I can see. Yeah, we're trying to follow you. Yeah, they do want to cut that protrusion and make the front line shorter and allow them to move a little further towards Slaviansk. And that will make situation for our troops near Bakhmut more difficult. They want to cut Siversk group, the one up north, from supplies as well, and they want to separate Bakhmut and Siversk, and they want to straighten the line. And also, if they cut a few roads there, they hope to diminish the amount of supplies and the speed with which we can provide them to the front. And they're also trying to push back a little bit from Kremenная. You can see there's more red here. We have seen that in the green before. They were coming closer to Kremenная according to this map. I'm not sure how true is that, but that's what we're seeing now. So these data needs to be verified. I don't think this is official data. It requires more clarification. We're just discussing what we are seeing on the map. So the whole front is basically three directions of main attacks: Ugledar, Bakhmut, and Soledar, to the north and to the east, and general direction near Liman as well. And right now they have two major groups. They got some operative reserves thrown to the front: general direction to Liman and general direction to Bakhmut. Ugledar was somewhat an unexpected. I mean, some people considered that, of course, but it was still somewhat less expected direction. And they're still engaging in activities there. In other parts, there are small skirmishes, attempts to sense and test our defenses. And there are some attacks without motion. So yeah, the most uncomfortable ones are near Siversk and Bakhmut. We generally can see their ideation. They want to capture Bakhmut, they want to capture Avdiivka, and get from Ugledar to Kurakhova, and create a threat for our troops near Marinka. And I think the next idea is the line of Pokrovsk, Slaviansk, Kramatorsk, Kupinsk. That is the line of towns, the first line after the front, after the red line. And these are the last big noteworthy towns of Donetsk region: Kramatorsk, Slaviansk, Drushkovka, Konstantinovka, Chasov Yar, Toretsk, and Avdiivka. So that's what they're planning and hoping to report in a month or two, that they've taken the whole Donetsk region, or how they would say, we liberated. I don't think they will succeed, but they will definitely give us some headache because the group is numerically larger than our troops at this moment on this side, and in the next couple months it'll be a very bloody fight, very similar to what we saw in May and June when we were grinding them, but we're still withdrawing to the left to better positions because it was difficult to hold the current ones under relentless artillery attacks. About other news, we recently heard the announcement that we have 8 additional storm brigades, 6 under National Guard and 2 under police. People are discussing in Ukraine. What is that? I think we're trying to repeat the experience of Azov regiment. Storm infantry is a very precious commodity in this war. Motivated, well-trained infantry is a tremendous asset on this front. And the experience of Azov are the ones who actually show that these are several people who fight with vigor, who record videos as they fight and who get the goals and tasks completed. And this makes a big contrast between the usual other videos that you see on the other scale, where people are complaining that there is water in the trenches, that there is enemy relentlessly attacking, and these detachments that are actively achieving their goals, smiling and enjoying their wins. So we've seen them in Mariupol, we've seen that experience in the south. So I think if we manage to replicate that experience, the overall number will be about 24,000 people. And I think it's already heard that 3,500 applicants already are in line, and this is basically one brigade already. That will be a very serious strike force if we manage to equip them. The standards to NATO will be good. One of the exemplary units would be Kraken. That's these storm infantry guys are showing great results on the front, and we managed to increase the numbers of these. That'll be a great asset for us in this fight. So what else? We have sanctions, we have supplies, constraints, and the first example of using Russian confiscated property. And let's go in orderly fashion, as we're told, to pay attention to the unusual things. How about the Georgian president's announcement that they do want to also be part of the contract with Russia after the war about liberation of Georgian territories as well, along with Ukrainian. So yeah, that's a curious one. That came from his interview with Bloomberg, and my sources in Georgia are saying that the stress in Georgia related to our action on the 4th was very high. Internal sources were expecting that the decision would be made about Saakashvili, and I had some messages, some notes from Georgia and from Europe that there was more changes. And actually, I had a letter from Arestovych, one of the congressmen in Europe, in EU, saying that actually one of the conditions for Georgia to be even considered to become part of EU at some point would be liberating Mikhail Saakashvili. So if they fail to release him, they are not seeing an option. And here's the president saying that, joining of Georgia to EU cannot depend on one person. And she also pegged the occupation of Georgian territories of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. So it sounded like a condition, like a term. Do you want Saakashvili? Include our territories in your effort. I don't know if she wanted to produce that impression. Everybody thought it's bold and inappropriate. But that's how it sounded. And definitely with such approach, you cannot achieve much. You will not be able to join EU. You will not be able to liberate your territories like that. I think we need to verify that information with the leadership of Georgia, because in its pure essence, I don't see another situation like that when two countries are fighting and then the third country jumps on the bandwagon and says, well, it's not difficult for you, add our territories to your agreement, right? Might as well. I cannot remember any precedent like that. And besides some diplomatic surprise that I see in myself, I noticed the same confusion and surprise with other commentators talking about her speech and her interview. And next piece, Moldova, when Lavrov said the West is looking at Moldova to become the next battle after Ukraine. After which Moldova said, no, we are not intending to fight, we are intending to join EU, and we suggest Lavrov to be more accurate with his wording. And Lavrov recently visited Swaziland, and after which he attacked Moldova verbally, and Lukashenko went to Zimbabwe. This is some level of diplomacy they're doing. That's their regional effort. So I don't know, why did Moldova piss Russia? What did they do? But yeah, now they're portraying Moldova as another bloody order of nationalists who are getting ready to kill Russian boys peacefully holding their rifles on the front. I don't know what they're trying to support, maybe some opposition in Moldova, but from my point of view, it's not even a diplomacy. He's Lavrov, being a professional diplomat, is assuredly sliding to the madhouse of Medvedev with his speeches. As for supplies and interesting motions, Germany and Netherlands, they want to unite their ground troops. That's another measure to reinforce Bundeswehr. They are aiming to have 50,000 troops, 8 of which would be in Netherlands. Have we seen similar situations with other countries? Not yet, but this is a good example of deep integration of German and Dutch military forces. There were other coalitions, there were some other joint groups, but this is a new trend. And this is basically a German reaction to the increasing threats on Europe. Poland is growing their army too. President of Israel Netanyahu gave an order to review Israeli politics about military supplies and support of Ukraine. It doesn't mean the supplies are going to come tomorrow, but it definitely is a serious statement, and just an agreement to review their stance is already a big step forward. Because until Netanyahu, it was a forbidden topic. And Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Intel community of Israel need to gauge their capability. I know people are talking about the Iron Dome and such, but we don't think it may be too early to speculate on that. Have you seen the Israeli interview in Germany, to which Moscow reacted so vehemently? They even had some anti-Semite notes in their statements. So we cannot, I guess, talk about nomenclature, what can be supplied. Right, Mark. There's a big range of battle useful equipment, but non-lethal equipment. For example, radars, sensors, visors, and with radar, it's more convenient to do relations in the shade without really showing too much of how they are supporting us, because when we are declaring too much about what have they supplied, we might put them in an uncomfortable situation and harm them. So in this case, I don't know how much we'll be talking about. Cabinet Ministers of Germany confirmed that they're sending Leopard 1 tanks in 88 quantity to Ukraine. Evil tongues are playing with the number 88. You know what you mean, right? Yeah, there is that. But tell us more about the screams from Moscow that these are not tanks, these are some old stuff, some crap equipment. No, this is not. This is Leopard with a modern system of fire control, which even if the base of the tank is somewhat dated, the fire control mechanisms and equipment would afford them to beat any Russian tank, even T-90s, on the battlefront. And the Russian army is not in the position that is now somehow welding dynamic armor onto T-60s. They're not in a good position to attack what Germany is supplying to us. I don't think Germany will send us the tanks from the 60s. They may be not the newest release, but definitely the fire control systems and all. That would definitely be an advantage. But I do have to remind that this war is straining resources of different sides, and if at some point we'll see the tanks from the 70s of the 20th century, I would not be surprised. And I understand how it strains Russia, but I don't know how it'll strain the whole set of allies and Ukraine together. It's intense. It's just big numbers, Mark. We got 1 million people in the army, and to equip them all with the Western munition and equipment and everything, it takes time. It's just a big volume. It takes years, a year or two, to do that. But to support us, United States released another package, and they have for a couple $1 billion, and that includes long-range missiles for HIMARS. Okay, let's look deeper into these missiles, what they are, how they are different from the others. I'll try to make it simple so that everybody can understand this. Before that, we had cassette-type munitions, which were considered to be prohibited by conventions, not too effective. 30% of them didn't explode. Then, civilians and children found them and got maimed. So they basically phased these out. And then some smart man decided to insert a bomb in that missile. And it has a very peculiar capability that if the missile already flew over the target, the bomb is searching for the target and then takes off and hits it, even can go back a bit. Very amazing precision. I think on their test runs, several dozen miles away, they managed to hit a moving target. This is a very serious story, and these 160 kilometers, 150 that this missile has effective range in, basically covers everything in the south of Ukraine, the whole captured Donetsk and Lugansk territories, and at least a third of Crimea. So at the bare minimum, that means Crimea is not going to be supporting the southern front. When do you think they'll start? We'll feel it. Once we start seeing interesting news from the front, that's when we'll see that it's there. But the fact that this news caused a certain reaction, Medvedev, who started quacking about nukes, basically shows the depth of understanding on the Russian side, how damaging will that munition be to them. And I think they'll recognize even more once we start using it. So you think you'll be using it on Crimea? General Command of Ukraine will figure out where they'll use it, but I can just say that it can reach, with the current line of front, it can reach the first third of Crimea. So it's basically more than twice jump in distance from 70 to 160 kilometers. It reaches from our front to basically the very border with Russia of Lugansk and Donetsk, and the whole southern line. And these are the ones that they store within 100+ miles from the front, and the railroad that goes on the south that supplies the whole front on the south. So all that will be at risk for them, which will be good. And we're also getting more usual HIMARS missiles, the ones that fly for 70 kilometers, more mortar rounds, more shells, 181 MRAPs with active armor, 250 new javelins, and 3,000 missiles to them. That means at least 1,500 armor targets destroyed in the future. 2 aerial defense Hawks, 24 radars, and some high-precision missiles. So, yeah, this is a very serious package, which means a rapid increase of capabilities of our troops on the front in a long-reaching capabilities, because American partners and our generals also know that one of the main factors is that we need to be able to take out logistics, and the deeper we can penetrate, the better we can destroy their logistics lines. And remember, we stopped their summer offensive because HIMARS worked on their warehouses. There was a serious, remember, of their warehouses going up in smithereens, and that's exactly what we're targeting right now as well. We're just increasing the outreach. So we suspect their offensive might not quite work well as they intend. And I know you love these news. That's the transfer of assets, the first in 11 months. $4 million that were confiscated from Konstantin Malafeyev. You know him better. He is somewhat orthodox oligarch with connections and friendship with Strelkov and supporting the so-called armies of so-called Donetsk and Lugansk republics. We call him an asshole, but you can call him an oligarch, yes. And he was active in Crimea in order to continue pushing the proper Orthodox religion there. So he was interesting. But the money were sent to Ukraine. First precedent is great, and that was sent from United States. So United States were the first to break that seal. And as always, once that's broken, there'll be other countries following suit. And also today in European Union, they took another decision that they lowered the price to the oil being transported by ocean from Russia to $45. Even 60 did cause serious issues with their budget, and now they went down to put it at 45. G7, US, Australia, EU, Britain, and the others joined that. They basically officially said that they don't want to fully destroy Russian economy, but they want to deprive Russia of ability to conduct large-scale warfare. Air defense systems, SAMP-T, was announced by Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy to be sent to Ukraine. In a few weeks they'll be here, and they have a capacity to shoot down ballistic missiles. So that's a good feature. Today, Russian economists announced that the budget deficit is about $3 billion. It's in rubles, it's in trillions, but I converted that to dollars for easy understanding and comprehension. And they're basically 2% short of their budget. And if the sanctions would continue at 60 price per barrel, they would have reached 7.9% deficit by September. And now we just heard that the price was dropped to 45. And we understand that Russia is holding itself together by center funding a lot of regions. And they're doing it two ways. They're funding the regions so they don't... so they obey and don't run, and they also use force enforcement ministries. So all the forces are being used in Ukraine. They're being burnt there, and money are running out. So that's an interesting story for Russia. Europeans are also announcing that they will start a 10th package of sanctions on the 24th of February, at the day of the war started. There'll be another meeting. Zelensky will take part in that. And there'll be some resolutions taken, I think. Ursula von der Leyen announced that there'll be another summit, and European Parliament announced that they already are asking Ukraine to start preparing documents for joining the EU. And this is a roadmap. We already said that it might take us 2 years to get there, but it kind of depends upon us, on our ability to reach certain milestones on this way. And this is not a calendar event, it's more of a milestone achievement event. But it's a great event, great thing. Another good news today, Yermak announced that we got 116 people back from Russian captivity. It's his personal fight, and he got 2 officers and 114 soldiers back. And also we managed to return 2 dead volunteers. I think it's American and Britain volunteers. And a very interesting story. 60% of Germans are afraid of Russian aggression against Germany. And I have a question. Why did we have problems with tanks for so long? Because the easiest way to preclude Russian aggression against Germany in the future is to make sure that everything they can throw potentially at EU and Germany would burn here in Ukraine. So the more you support Ukraine, the better we are off defending our common Europe. The other thing is that Kremlin is trying to convince Germany that if you will be supplying a lot, we will attack you too. It just shows again that information fight cannot be stopped even for a second, and it needs to continue because 60% is serious. I'm surprised that German powers are not doing proper information support, because if in my country 60% of people believed that we may be attacked by a certain foe, I would have been concerned with that issue. And looking into the details of being concerned about my own country, that whole week that we haven't met, we had a ton of messages, those fake attacks. Kharkov is going to be assaulted. Military were reached out to and sent messages that tomorrow at 5 in the morning they will be attacking. Military are leaving and taking their families away just to cause some panic in the city. I do not have much illusions about collective unconsciousness, but seriously, on the 11th month of war, to believe that we'll just surrender Kharkov and they'll attack from all sides. But it's the funniest thing is that military people were sharing the data. District attorneys and police were forwarding things. And very often I was getting messages, have you moved yourself? Is it okay to stay? Are people really leaving? And my usual answer was, guys, if we have not surrendered Kharkov on the 24th of February, when it was much more dangerous and much more surprising, what are we talking about? When we are 10 times stronger and Russian army is 5 times weaker. And our officials did say that they do not exclude provocations on the northern border. And that's the only thing they confirmed, that there may be provocations. Provocations are not full-scale attack, but that essentially caused fluid into the fire, the igniting fluid. So yeah, it took a bit of an effort to dispel these rumors. Once again, friends, there will not be any grand-scale attack from the north. There may be some individual provocations, but again, I'm laughing now. Look at this message. I'll read it. To be trusted. The contact has contacts in Ukrainian intel ministry. The offensive of Russian troops on Ukraine is planned on the 30th or 31st of February. Are you concerned about anything in this message? Right? February, 28 days. Exactly. 29. But yeah, people, imagine that. Some people are forwarding these messages without even reading. So there is that we have to deal with. Another PSYOP. And I have to say that there'll not be a major new offensive tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. There'll be a long, bloody grind in the next few months on the front. And there could be some provocations, there could be some diversion groups near the border, some motions pretending that they're going to attack certain targets and then stopping. But once again, I would remind that northern border is well protected. And technically, even if they had strike groups there, they would not be able to achieve these goals. So you can go to sleep peacefully. There'll not be major attacks. And nobody is moving their families out. Again, some may be, but my family is here. So I don't want to switch to cursing, describing these waves of panic, but I still want to say that strategic psyops that are being participated by the top officials of Russia, including Putin himself, will continue throughout this war, probably to the last day of it. So continue listening to me and Mark, and we'll help you to verify the actual news from fake stuff. Okay, we've been about 30 minutes, 35 minutes live. 300,000 plus are watching us. 100,000 plus click the like button. Apparently, we're liked today. I'm glad to have that many people on the weekend. And do not forget to subscribe if you have not done that yet. So, speaking of PSYOPs, another topic. There was information in American press that Burns, who was traveling from Kiev to Turkey, meeting with the head of FSB Narishkin there, and that apparently there may have been negotiations about maybe giving 20% of territory of Ukraine to Russia. These negotiations were denied by the American side, and even Peskov on the Russian side chimed in and said, no, this is fake, we haven't discussed that. I think it's the matter of percent, but I think this information, given that current situation, also looks like some PSYOP. Let's send this number into the media sphere and see how it fares from some official speakers around the press, from analysts, and let's see where this ball goes. So 20% is not out of nowhere. I think, and comment what you think about that there is a real desire behind that, a wish. Mark, it's even funnier. I think it's same as with the 30th and 31st of February. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it needs to be calculated. I think right now they're at less than 20%, probably less. So that number is what? We need to add more territories to Russia and then sign a peace treaty? Maybe there are 20 right now, but it needs to verify. But I think it's the whole size of occupied territory was changing all the time. And this is a PSYOP. PSYOP usually has signs of hidden commands behind it. So people always give hidden communications when they talk, even when they don't realize that. And PSYOPs always have these hidden commands. And what do you see here? Peace talks and keeping the territory for Russia. So basically the goal of that is to say, hey, we won, so that Russian people do not topple Putin. And the main storyline of that is that you cannot win a war with Russia, so you need to stop the war at current state, but it actually creates conditions for Russia in the future to get more forces, to accumulate new forces, and then finish Ukraine in the next war a few years later. And they're working on that. They're working on the media front, they're working in the PSYOPs front, they're working on the front. And in Ukraine, they do have a target of getting people accustomed to the thinking that, well, yeah, we'll have to give some territory away. And no, according to politics, from what I hear, some politicians are trying to push that. It's impossible probably to push Russia out in 2023, and maybe there'll be some Korea scenario here. The answer that current administration and I join with is it all depends upon the support. If we get enough weapons, if we provide enough resources, we will kick them out. And in general, the good thing is that the Western attitude to Putin's regime is very aggressive. It's good. Because they will not be the same Ukraine and they will not be the same West as a few years ago. So the joint pressure on Kremlin will probably force Kremlin to revise their goals. And the results of our counteroffensive were amazing earlier on last year. And even if at some point we sit down and discuss the conclusion of this war, they will be coming from the position of power. And I can imagine how that could be. If we reach the borders with Crimea, we start destroying, taking out every military installation of Russia from Crimea. And there is a massive refugee flow from Crimea to the southern Russia region. And the diamond in the crown of Putin, as they say, is going to be falling out of his crown, perhaps with a crown. So just that would be already an interesting position to talk. So a situation like that, when we kick them out and overwhelm them on the front, that's a whole different story about negotiations then, right? And also, going into negotiations doesn't mean the conclusion of war. Negotiations were going all the time through, from the beginning of this war and before that to the end of it. So, in different capacities, consulting, etc., there'll be a lot of conversations about Korea. There'll be a lot of psyops from Russian side that they're endless, that they cannot be destroyed. The answer is simple. It depends upon the number of and the quantity of Western support. If we get enough resources, enough means, we can solve this task. So quantity, quality of troops, and the will to prevail. And right now, the West is very aggressive, very active in their intent to not let Putin win. And Putin who doesn't win means that Ukraine does win. And the aggressor who didn't win means he lost. And the country who was supposed to be squashed in 3 days and who, even at the worst version, would go into negotiations after having destroyed the capacity of the aggressor to continue any military actions on the front. That's already, and I'm taking the worst situation for us. That's already a defeat for Putin. And the West that says, yeah, no, it's a territory of Ukraine, we don't care about Crimea. And Medvedev screaming back, saying that no, Crimea should not be attacked. It's the territory that Ukraine should not be hitting their own. So that means they're already considering that they'll have to retreat on the Russian side. And in Ukraine, there was a wave of arrests and fight with corruption. I saw you commenting on that, and I thought we should touch that topic in our streams because for at least half a year, we touched upon different accusations that Ukrainian officials are selling supplies sent by the West, and we're dispelling a lot of these attacks. Ukrainian leadership was pretty open, and the audits were relentless. They continue auditing what is where, and no audit discovered serious discrepancies. So recently, in several ministries, there were some arrests. There were some people taken into the justice system, and Zelensky talked about zero tolerance for corruption. Do you think it's clue about the scale, the number of the arrests, and the kind of a wave of anti-corruption fighting that happened recently. So, how serious is the topic? Do you think the corruption related to war is that serious, or is it still an element of psyop, and then you guys go figure who stole what? Besides psyops, which are of course permeating, there are certain accusations that are being thrown at Minister of Defense and Customs, and President said very clear: there is the external front and the internal front. We are fighting the external war, and internally we started to look deeper into things happening. And the American Commission helped us by just intending to come and starting some audits. And our audit organs also chimed in, and there was a group of resignations, group of criminal cases started. We'll see what will be the conclusion of it. Opinions differ. Some people think that administration is afraid of Americans and are starting to just play along with them and maybe overemphasize certain things, or maybe other people are saying that they're maybe abusing some political positions of the opposition. And I think media support is another matter, because some of the journalists surprised me internally in Ukraine when they were throwing statements without verifying. And there's a lot of anti-corruption rhetoric and a lot of anti-corruption expectations. And people are eager to grab news headlines and post them. So one has to be very careful. Once again, we are a democratic country. We don't have thieves until they are reviewed by court and until the judgment is made. So until then, they're just suspects. And, you know, our judicial system is being accused at being slow and cumbersome, but it is a system process. And I do want that to play along normally in a systemic way. Because rephrasing Stepan Andreevich, the incomplete support of the Westerners is not so dangerous as the ones that may have been stolen by our bureaucrats. And that's another side of it. If the West decided to seriously fight this war and make sure Russia doesn't win, they need to calculate the resources they sent, the resources we captured from Russia, and the resources that we managed to preserve and grow up internally to send to the front. So that's all a search, that's all a cleansing of a system and smoothing it. So the West wants to be sure that everything is jiving along and there's not, the degree of corruption is minimal. And we need to, of course, plug the holes, make sure that people are punished if they are making errors, criminal errors, and in some cases it needs to just lift and change of a system. For example, purchasing food for the military, very ineffective. And certain elements, if they do have risks, if they do have corruption risks within them that keep surfacing up, then the system needs to be corrected and certain checks and balances need to be installed. But I think overall we should be welcoming that. But there are other decisions. For example, 30,000 were taken away from the non-front workers of the military and increased the salaries of the ones in the front. And I know what is happening some parts because budget is tight and we need to save resources where we can, but I know the officials will come out and explain more on that. Still 300,000 with us. Third, click the like button. So another topic I wanted to bring in our new cadence. I think you've seen some of these events that were so cardboard fakery in Volgograd in Russia. what was interesting about them, they renamed Volgograd to Stalingrad for a day, and I think they put a bust to Stalin there, and the whole rhetoric that was there just confirms that they ideologically have crystallized, and jumping between Alexander III and Stalin, they picked a comfortable, stinky Soviet uniform. And, the rhetoric was about German tanks again, on our land with crosses. And this is a refrain to Stalin and the Second World War. And to Stalin in this case in particular, not to Russian world or something. There is a problem, Mark, yes. PSYOPs and political technologies, they address what exists in the society. From my point of view, from our point of view, it is madness. But in there, they know what motivates their population. And it may look mad to us, but that's what they're concerned about. And people of Surkov level are one group, and then there are other people of Russian society which can be motivated with bringing up Stalin. And they're still talking. If you listen to their streams, they're talking about NATO, about the hired guns, about the West fighting for Ukrainians on the front. It's like in Henry, it's not where the roads go, it's what make us choose these roads, right? So that style may be even disgusting to Surkov and to Putin, because he probably would have been executed both summarily in Soviet Union. You can't imagine a more anti-Soviet project than Putin's project. But since there is a demand, that's what they're doing. And anyone who has some brain can understand that what Putin is doing is completely not in line with Soviet Union. But population that grew up in Russia in the recent years, and some of the descendants of Soviet Union, they are very reactionary. They just react to certain symbols. So when you show them German tanks, when you tell them about the big war, that's what propaganda is affecting. And propaganda never intends to convince you of anything. They just push the emotion buttons. And that looks, of course, like a subject of jokes on the West. But internally in Russia, they count the numbers of people who went to go to be drafted. And these people on top of Russia with British education, with villas in Miami, and with Brioni costumes, are telling to their populace about the Second World War and Stalin and great fight. See, Olexiy, I see that, but at the same time, I disagree that you can sell things if you don't believe in them. Because Stalin, he had issues, right? But he was a believer. He was definitely a believer in his that internationalism and the idea of the world global revolution. That was stemming from within. They believed that. Well, Mark, the relation between the left project and the West project, the communist project and the West project, are a complex topic. And there were times when communist project was winning. Vietnam, Korea, right? So Korea was not one, it was dead end. So the West couldn't prevail everywhere. And there were a lot of sympathizers. In the mid-70s, there was a parade of left movements from America to Portugal and Africa. And only when USSR invaded Afghanistan that people started to realize that this is the same dumb empire as many before. And at least in the empire field, they're not different from what was drawn about the United States at that point. And that's when the Soviet Union started to lose support. And the struggle still exists because the West also has a left project. It is widely represented there. 25% of the left in America and the Democratic Party are ultra-left, or what can be considered ultra-left. One of them actually did mention in the previous election that Gulag was good, and it would be nice to put Trump supporters into gulags. I'm trying to remember who was there. Uh, Bernie or what do I want to say? I want to say that there is a distance between Bernie Sanders, right? That was Bernie Sanders who said that. Sorry, yeah, I thought Menendez came to mind. That's about something else, right? Apologies, not him. So there is a distance between a grandma in line in the store who's feeling the deficit of budget, but who still remembers the youth and the songs and the life in USSR, and the guys who speak three languages, live in Moscow, and are working their political technology work in the shoes that cost $5,000. But I suspect as long as they do that, it means it works. And if at least it doesn't help them to recruit people to the front, at least it may be helping them to maintain some ideological framework and the feeling of righteousness. Because what they measure the support of population of that military campaign. So as long as the fighting fascism is a drive, is definite button, they will be doing that. They will be renaming Volgograd to Stalingrad, and they'll be screaming about German tanks with crosses. That technology worked, and it continues to work. It's a typical psyop. So tell me, do you believe in karma? I do. Let's take a look at the screen. I'll show you a picture. Oh, a story with a skull. How did you guess? Did you know? You know, karma is an important thing. It seems there's nothing to discuss, right? But there was a dude with the last name Mangushev from Russia. We're showing the pictures. He was pretending to be a big Russian world figure. And we'll show the several pictures. Here he is standing on the stage with a skull. He said it's a skull of a Azov fighter from Azovstal factory. This guy looks like he's gay, maybe? Kind of looks weird, but I don't know if he's licking or biting something here. Yeah, so very playful character. And he was carrying that skull around here and there. He was saying that he is fighting on this war, posting photos. And here he is. Today he got his head shot through and through. Yeah, here he's sucking on something in the hospital with some, I don't know, red paint. We took everything from the internet. That's how he ends. Typical Russian Nazi, missing half a head. Do you think it's karma? Yep. Penetrating wound of a skull. That was the diagnosis. So, Mark, where did the laws of military honor came about to be from? Why do you not attack the dead? Because people who fought, they realized on their own skin that everything works on the front much faster. That the world is round, but it has the shape of a suitcase, and you do meet in the corners. And one of my friend's father's friend was, for example, a professional polar researcher. He was always saying that Arctic and Antarctic always looking at how you behave. If you misbehave, if you start killing penguins or start killing local fauna, and something happens real fast. And in the mountains, mountaineering also has a certain code of ethics. In all the dangerous professions, there is that code. They stem from Christianity and morals, or in Japan, for example, they have a similar situation. Samurai would create a poem over the body of a defeated opponent. Why? Where it comes from, right? So that ghost wouldn't hunt you at night, and so that these dead opponents do not visit you at night, right? It is important. And Shinto, not Christianity, they go into believe into the same things in relation, because not many people realize what happens after. Those people who will come after the war, who are fighting the war now, they will come and join the civil society, and they'll be integrating back with you. That's why the old soldiers were always telling that after you killed somebody, just raise a toast to your foe. Just acknowledge that we both are shooting at each other and I was a little faster today. Have some respect. Do not laugh at the dead or captured. This is going against the laws of military honor and ethics. And if Christian morale means nothing to you, just look at the practical side of things. All those people who love torture, who love posing and love violating these things, they're getting theirs pretty fast. And some of those who seem to be invincible, we never know, right? We never know how the karma will get them. It will. And I don't think the skull was real, but even posing with that, now he has a penetrating wound of his own skull. That happens, especially with the idiots who decided to capitalize on a cheap hype and do some social media posing. It's a sad story. Don't do that. Dead are dead, wounded are wounded, captured are captured, and you have to be respectful of all of them. 300,000 still watching us. Please continue subscribing. We've been for an hour streaming today, and we're compensating for a few things. The last couple of topics. On the 20th of February, in the place where you live, in America, in Europe, we are planning to conduct a special action to support Mikhail Saakashvili. Now it's only his mother who is visiting him. The court procedures are ongoing. We have the leadership of Georgian party doing it together with us. It was formed by Mikhail Saakashvili back in the day, and they promote that information among Georgian societies, Georgian groups in America and in Europe, and they're asking everybody to join. I think our chances are growing. I will not give the hints as to the notes that I'm getting from different allies. President Zelensky also came out after our push with Olexiy here to support Mikhail. Ukrainian parliament, Rada, came out with a note to release Saakashvili into Ukraine, since he is a Ukrainian citizen. And this question remains open. Of course, Georgian powers, Georgian authorities have not responded yet, but I think they are dealing with the other side as well that is pressing them, so it's interesting. It's Ukrainian president and Ukrainian leadership did come out and basically bluntly say that Saakashvili is being murdered. These are strong words, and if he is murdered in Georgia, then Georgia will have to face severe consequences. So once again, we suggest they do release him to Kiev or to any third country. Also have to say something here. Dear friends, you can have any reasons for what you're doing. Internally, you understand your situation. But let's be blunt and cynical, like, I don't know if you know moral categories, but let's look at everything, even Machiavellian style. It is not profitable for you to have Saakashvili dead. Regardless of what experts you call, what do you say in your defense, you will never be able to wash his blood off your hands. And European perspectives and personal perspectives for each of you who will be understood to be related to his death, that'll be the end of your career, the end of your acceptance in a civilized society, everywhere. And I think this is indeed a condition for Georgia to be able to join European Union. And I think your future generations and in the elections will give you their judgment. And presidents usually don't throw words like that. Zelensky came out and he did use them. So, yeah, I agree. Do not risk, right? And the last question about the frequency of our streams. I want to say after switching to the weekly format, we have a ton of messages, people asking us, thinking thoughts, asking to please come back. No, we're not fighting, we're not quarreling. Some people are thinking there is an intrigue happening. Yeah, Mark, how can we quarrel to one stream? When you quarrel, you do not quarrel to one stream, you just part ways, right? So I want to say that Olexiy has his own objective considerations. I see it a little differently, but in any case, we'll be doing, as I understand, once a week stream. We'll see what happens after, because we'll be making decisions jointly. 50% is on him. He is my guest on this one. And I would like you, Olexiy, to say something to our viewers to maybe calm them down and take the pressure off. People, well, first of all, I think that when we discuss the lack of changes on the front day and day again, it devaluates our opinion. We're not a news agency. Our task is to give a general strategic framework. Over a week, we actually gather more information that shows trends, sanctions, front, allies. So summarizing the week is a better analytical stream that I would want to be part of. And coming here and anywhere and talking 3, 4, 5 times a week that nothing was taken in Solidar or the battle is raging near Bakhmut. Those people are enough already online who calculate with a measuring tape who moved where. And second is I do have other projects. So when I was running as an advisor to the office of the president, I was running at my capacity, even beyond it. I was just wearing myself out. Now I have my own schedule, and each strain has a capacity. I'm not even talking about health and all that, but there are nuances. How long can you keep that pressure? So I lowered that activity, considering 2 factors. First of all, I don't have that level of responsibility. I'm a private person now. And second, I don't have a government obligation to a duty to hold and help people, hold our people calm and analytical in the face of that war. And I think an analytical stream is more important than a daily repetitions that there are no changes. And out of the real news, there may be 1 or 2 news per stream. I think for me, in my current capacity, once a week with Mark is a good format that allows to discuss big trends and the logic and the play of power. So I do not see a need to come on air more often than that. Now, if events change, if the volume of events will progress to the degree that we cannot talk about all of them within an hour format, we'll return to 2, maybe 3 streams a week to accommodate that. But I'm not interested in repeating the same piece. There are no changes 3 times a week. Or small things like some ship was detained or something happened as one news. I do not see myself in the daily news format. I see myself in a strategic analysis format. I understand you may not like it. It's still my decision to make, so this is my choice. Now, if our analytics is running behind and the tempo increased, we will do a few more streams for sure. But this is the goal. So I say, let's try Olexiy, let's see how it goes, and we'll play along with the situation. If we'll see the front changing, if there'll be indeed, what we say, daily analytics needed, we'll be able to vary these things accordingly, because we think that we are on the verge, on the precipice of a very decisive part of this war, and we'll be reacting to that accordingly. I think, Mark, yes, the number of our issues should meet the situation on the front. If it changes drastically, we can be coming 3 times a week easily. Now I do not see the need to be doing it more often. Now look, that's the news for a week, right? Trans groups, we went through all of that today. This is the work that I've done for you today. And I was aggregating that for the week in order to be able to talk to you today and discuss the trends. And it's different. It's not like at the beginning of war, but it's an evolution. I understand some people may need psychological support as well, but sorry, colleagues, you might as well have learned to stand on your own feet. I shouldn't be your prop all the time. So, or maybe it's a different question, Olexiy, right? Maybe on the couch with a psychoanalyst, right? But when I was representative of the office of the president, I was almost the representative of the uh, head command, general command. Now I'm a private person, Alexei, who is talking about what's happening. Well, I'm also part of that dialogue, so private person Alexei is not interested in doing it daily. I'm interested in doing strategic analysis. And at the beginning of war, nobody even gave me that order. I just took it upon myself and was doing it for about a year. Eventually, now we have a pool of official speakers who are doing a lot of talking. And some people are funny, counterimposing me to these faces and people. I actually was the one who helped to create that network, to help create these people who can address different aspects. So now I see that this is going and I don't have to carry it all on myself. And now, in my current capacity, Olexiy Arestovich, as a private citizen, I would prefer to keep the analytical format when there are trends emerging, and I would love to discuss these trends with you here. Now, if the situation will be changing drastically, threateningly, then the private person Olexiy Arestovich will again meet the wishes of the audience and will accommodate that trend and we'll talk to you more often. For now, look, the show turned out to be very interesting, very rich, a lot of things to discuss. I absolutely am loving what did we do today. And I don't want to, again, I'll repeat it once again, but I do not want to go over things daily because this is not my goal. I understand some people are telling me we're just getting calm by listening to your voice. Well, you can watch Mark in different shows and you can watch me in other streams and calm down listening to us there. Oh, Alexei, no, no, no. I'm not calming them down. I'm usually arousing my audience. Definitely arousing. Anyway, a different function, and I think we'll need it soon. I am grateful for Alexei joining us today. I am grateful for you guys that you've been with us. Please do not forget it is important to share links, click the like button, and subscribe to both of our channels and to the Privateer station if you are listening or watching that in English. You can communicate to us by comments under the streams. You can reach out by email, and we're also making an app for those places where people cannot watch YouTube. There'll be an app so you can watch our streams there in it. And yeah, watch the announcements. We'll send a link. See you in a week. Bye.